about Beria's famous line, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime." Beria was Stalin's right-hand man until he wasn't, but for 20 years he was a head of security for the Soviet Union. He was a mass murderer, he was a mass rapist, a mass torturer, he was a vile, evil devil of a human being. And eventually Stalin got tired of him, and he went in front of a show trial. They took him down to a basement where people like him were executed, a basement that was actually built at his instructions. And he cried like a baby. He was on the floor begging for mercy, and he was shot in the back of the head. He was responsible for the slaughter of millions of Ukrainians. In 1932, he was responsible for the slaughter of Polish generals and other military personnel by the thousands. He was responsible for the slaughter of Russians. People would just be picked up off the streets and so forth. Professionals, activists, opposition leaders, and so forth. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. But you see that in the modern day communist China, you see it in modern day Russia, you see it in modern day Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and now you see it in modern day Manhattan, Atlanta, Washington, D.C. The Democrat Party has really become, in many ways, a totalitarian party, a police state, which it keeps promoting, centralization of power. It does not like opposition, it does not like challenges, it does not like debate. It demands and seeks to impose its will. I study this. That's what I do. People say, what's your hobby? This is my hobby. Books that you ought to consider. The Origins of Totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt. People who study this sort of thing are well familiar with her. The Psychology of Totalitarianism. The Crisis of the Republic. The cogs in a wheel, the formation of the Soviet man. Marxism unmasked from delusion to destruction, von Mises. The rape of the mind. Marxism and the philosophy of language. Democracy and totalitarianism. The True Believer, the great Eric Hoffer. Propaganda. Propaganda by Edward Bernays. Wrote this in the 1920s. He was an advisor to Woodrow Wilson. Was one of the worst presidents, one of the worst racists, and one of the biggest propagandists. You know who else enjoyed this book? The German version of this book? Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels. Totalitarianism and tyranny. Do you see the expansion of liberty in our country taking place today? No. Does the Democrat Party ever talk about individualism? No. Does the Democrat Party ever talk about private property rights? No. Does the Democrat Party ever talk about natural law, natural rights, God-given? No. Does the Democrat Party ever talk about unalienable rights? No. Does the Democrat Party ever praise the founders of this country? No. Does it ever praise the framers of this country? No. Does it ever fully quote the Declaration of Independence? No. Does it ever fully quote the Bill of Rights? No. Biden is, in many ways, a street thug politician out of Wilmington, always has been. He really has no business being in the Oval Office. America deserves much better. And as you know, he was ramping up against Trump, that Trump is a threat to democracy. As ex-president, he's a threat to democracy. He goes to Independence Hall, where so many great men have spoken. In the assembly room, outside, you had Lincoln and others, and there's Biden. And what does he say? Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. You don't think Alvin Bragg heard that? Or the other Democrat prosecutors? Biden, Pelosi, Sanders, on and on and on, as I did my research, all of them, that Donald Trump and you are a threat to democracy. Here we have books being written, a user's guide to ending the Trump presidency from lawfare when he was president. To those Americans like me who believe that Donald Trump is grossly unfit to serve as president, the question we've been confronting since January 2017 is how best to remove him from office. The answer, of course, lies in our history. Trump, after all, is our 45th president. 44 previous presidents have already come and gone. How and why did they leave office? And do any of their modes of departure bear on our current situation? How do we get this guy? How do we get rid of this guy? When it comes to getting rid of this president, history may be a guide, but we are nevertheless deep in uncharted waters, facing the potential shipwreck of our constitutional democracy. This is why prosecutors do what they do. More when I return.